So good morning, everyone. I hope you can all hear me. I'm looking visually, so I see a few nods, so thank you so much. My name is Tina Mylon, and I'm the SVP of Talent and Diversity for Schneider Electric. So in that regard, I manage a lot of our talent management, our leadership, and our diversity inclusion initiatives for group. So I'm really delighted here to welcome you, first of all, to our Innovation Summit in Barcelona, beautiful city, and also for this particular panel, where I have an esteemed panel of guests that I will quickly introduce. So welcome to our session. It's a fairly short session. It's around 45 minutes. We'll try to leave Q&A for the last 10 minutes. I will give a quick introduction on Schneider Electric and our approach to thinking about workforce of the future and diversity inclusion. And then we'll do a lot of questions and discussions with my panelists. We keep it fairly informal, and like I said, we will leave hopefully 5-10 minutes to questions at the end, okay? So very quickly from my left to right, and you can see here already their high-level bios. We're really delighted to have a number of esteemed guests. So from HP, we have Guayante San Martin, and she runs business globally, but is based in Barcelona for different parts of the business. I guess the large format, and she can explain later, right? So welcome, Guayante. And then we have Xavi Escalas, who has done a number of things, but most recently is a founder of Always People First. So very interesting organization, and I encourage you to look more deeply into that. And of course we have Montserrat Barcelo Rivera, so my Spanish is not perfect, apologize for that. So she has also had quite an extensive career in a lot of areas, but most notably now in Spain, she's a founding member, board member of EJECON, Women EJECON. And finally, a close colleague of mine, Ali. So Ali Hajfraj is our SVP of Machine Solutions in our industrial automation business. So he runs that globally and is based in Germany. And he's also a member of our Diversity and Inclusion Schneider Electric board. So he and I do professional things and also things related to the D&I priority. So welcome to all of you, and we'll get started right now, okay? So very briefly, and as a reminder, after this session, soon after in the plenary, our CEO and chairman, Jean-Pascal Tricoire, will give the plenary introduction. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time on Schneider Electric business, but just to set the context, we're here in Barcelona today, of course, for our Global Innovation Summit, and our business is really predicated on driving energy and sustainable and efficient solutions globally around the world. We share a few facts and figures, and why do I share this as it relates to diversity and inclusion and the role of women and men in driving diversity and inclusion? We talk a lot about at Schneider our global workforce, and it's part of our business model to be close to customer, to be close to talent, and to be agile in the way we manage our workforce of the future. So you can see very quickly just a distribution of where our business is and fairly evenly distributed across the world. Our labor force is the same way. We have a third in the Americas, a third in Europe, a third in Asia, as well as our executive leadership all the way up to the ExCom. And I'm sorry, panelists, it's kind of behind you as you look at it. Quick thing about our value proposition. So many of you most recently saw our company launch and our refresh of our story. A key part of that is how we position ourselves to the market when it comes to the workforce of the future. So for us, it is very much about serving a company with a very meaningful purpose, especially around business solutions and energy solutions for our customer and sustainability. It is about an inclusive place to work, where people are not only diverse, but actually inclusive in the way they collaborate, innovate, and drive business results for customers together. And finally, it's empowered. So for us, again, we believe strongly in a clear global model, but really animating at local level. So for us, the country is very important in how we drive that, and that is why it's part of our EVP. Now, when I talk about diversity and inclusion at Schneider, it's not a new topic. Many of you know this topic. Many of you run businesses, and it's important for you. So it is not something that's unique, but it's something we believe is a differentiator for Schneider Electric. And the big piece for us is, while highlighting differences, amongst all our diversities, the bigger part of our strategy is to create equal opportunities. I don't really care, with all due respect, at the end of the day, whether you're male, female, one family, single family, et cetera. What I do care about is creating equity, inclusion, as much as I can through different forms of the culture, policies, process. And that's what we try to drive. Very simply, our strategy is focused on those pillars. How to support different diversities, how to make sure we have hardwired practices on practical way that really can create that equity and that equal chance of success. How do we make sure our leaders and employees exhibit inclusive behaviors in the way they build their teams, in the way they interact with customers? And finally, of course, advocacy. So for us, D&I is not just for our company, but it's for the broader planet at large, and we believe it is an essential element of business success and societal success. So Schneider has to play a role in that. One thing, and I know Ali will also share, I give one example of something now in our second year, our global family leave policy. So what is different about this policy? We started from the beginning. Are we creating as much equity and inclusion for all people at the very beginning? Not just for mothers having babies, but also fathers who want to take paid leave, for people who are taking care of sick family members or elderly family members, for people that are going through bereavement. So my point is, our policy, which is very similar to how we approach D&I policies, is broad and inclusive and as global as possible. So in the second year, we have now, our goal is to cover all our countries, which is not always easy, but our second year, we're reaching now already up to around 75% coverage. By next year, 2020, we want all our countries and all our employees to be covered by the policy. My last slide before we go into the discussion with the panelists. I tee it up because it's very relevant. All of you can relate to this. Some of you are women, some of you are men. And this, I think, is a healthy dynamic. Whenever I talk about D&I, it's not a women's topic only. It's a man and women topic. And I use this slide to tee up the panelists to say, what can we collectively do to really drive diversity and inclusion, and especially in this lens, gender equity? Right, because we know historically having equal representation of women and men in our company with our customers is very, very important and drives results. So I share a few things here about while women and men equally support the topic, they might see it through a slightly different lens. So with that, thank you again, welcome, and I go back to my panel. So, all of you guys can hear me, I assume. I haven't been talking for 5 minutes and no one can hear me, right? Perfect. Okay, so let's get started. I think the first question.
Yeah, good.
Okay, so Montserrat, I'm going to pick on you first. I showed that slide earlier about men and women, and how men and women can get involved in driving gender diversity and driving inclusion and diversity, and also working together to collaborate, innovate. What are your views on that? What have you seen in your experience? What should be the role of men and women in pushing that agenda forward?
We'll focus mainly, because there will be companies talking here, so I will focus mainly about our association.
Oh, so one quick thing. I just realized the panelists, we should listen to each other, so maybe we should put on our... Sorry, we're the first morning session, so we're rehearsing a little, right? Bear with us. Sorry, Montserrat, yeah? Okay.
Well, I can put it later. So.
I've got all this gear on.
Yeah, and please, the ones that just join us, come and get a mic. It will be easier for you to follow. So, well, thank you so much for coming, especially very impressed to see so many men in the room today. I'm really glad about it. No, I'm the founder member of an executive women association in Spain with one goal. This country is one of the countries in the world with lowest percentage of women in C-level positions and board members. And we are not proud about it. We are taking the action. And since we created our association 4 years ago with 90 members, today we are 700, we had it very clear. We invited men to join our association. We could not do it ourselves. It was difficult at the beginning when you are 100 C-level women to invite men and sit at the table, especially the the first, the second, and the third one. But we have 50 men right now joining, our forces and making sure that, they in their companies and in the country, the figures are changing, no? Recently, last week, the CEO of Airbnb, Portugal and Spain joined us. He said publicly that he got more congratulations for this new membership than even when he was promoted as the CEO of Airbnb. So what I mean is that we need men to sit at the table when we have this discussion, no? And that's what we have done at EGECON, at our association. Secondly, one of the things that you also mentioned and you do very well in your company is also having men mentoring those women that want to achieve C-level positions or be member of the boards. When you really have a president of a company or you have a managing director, men, mentoring a woman and learning how difficult can be sometimes on getting on that position or joining a board, they realize they become your biggest champions, no? So that would be a little bit the two home messages that I take from the initiative that we had at Home.
Perfectly said, Montserrat. Thanks for sharing that. And I think you're right. I think a lot of times we design these D&I policies and people think they only benefit women, when in fact, in most cases, they benefit men, they benefit the family at large, they benefit society at large. So thanks for those comments. Xavi, just to add, because you're the opposite side, right? I guess. We put you side by side together. But from a maybe male perspective, also, what is your view on this? How men and women work together on this topic?
Well, it's not my view. I mean, there are many examples, studies where you can see that when men and women they work together, the results are better. So this is the first thing that I want to, to put the attention in. I mean, it's so important that we understand that the way we work together is going to affect our business. That we should approach this issue from this perspective. In addition to that. From my experience, what I see is not only the economical benefits of working together, but how you can enrich the culture in the company if you have a well-balanced company. Because, it's going to affect positively the innovation of the company. It's going to affect positively the mood of the company. There are more issues that are going to be able to be addressed properly because only the fact of having a richer approach, and this kind of thing is something that people have to understand. And the last thing that I'm seeing among our clients is that you also have to be conscious of the possibility of boost these initiatives if everyone in the organization see their own benefit, personal benefit of it. I have one CEO, he's a client of ours, that is always repeating me, Xavi, I'm so glad of recruiting more and more women in the company because now it's more fun. Only to see, how they see the things and how the conversations are really more interesting, For me, the most important part is to understand is that it's not that we are the same, it's that we are complementary. And we have to approach it this way.
Thank you, Xavi. And I think I like the use of the word fun because I think that also brings, sometimes this topic can feel so heavy, right? And it is more interesting and more fun probably to work with different people in general.
Definitely.
Let me turn same question also to the other two panelists because you both run businesses, right? So at Schneider Electric today, and it's really been a lot of effort, not easy at all, but if you think about almost 50% of our P&L, our business at Schneider Electric, is run by women members of the ExCom. So we have executive committee members who are running France, who's running Europe, et cetera, so in North America. So for us, it didn't happen by chance. And I think the question, Guayente, to you, and then Ali, of course, right behind, as business leaders running global businesses, why is it so darn hard? Why is it still so difficult? The often answer we hear from leaders is there are not enough women engineers graduating. Is that the case in HP or Schneider's Machine Solutions business? Why is it so hard, and what do you see some promises for where you can create more equity among men and women?
So certainly is not easy, no? Like to find if I like. But one thing I think we have done in HP differently is there are women in the engineering and STEM, and what we are doing is when we go and find them. So it's not that when we have positions in HP, we have one program that is called the HP University, and it's for graduates. And what we do is we go to all the universities to explain what HP is doing and what we have in Barcelona. First, where we go and we have more engineers explaining what we are doing than girls than male. The main reason is that they have people, this girl is working there, so it may be good for me. We go and find them. Then when we recruit them, we ensure that those that come to HP that then are going to be selected, there is, we cannot do 50-50 because it wouldn't be fair then to get the greatest talent, but we do ensure that there are enough so then when we do the selection process, we can have in HP this level of engineers. So today in Barcelona, we have around close to 20% of engineers, which is still a lot to do. We are not 50-50, but 20% women engineers is a very good ratio, for business, so technological deep as ours. So that's 25% are managers. Of the managers are women, and in the business that I was running, just up to September, there were 2 GMs. One was male and myself on the large format. So we say there are 50 executives.
Excellent.
50%.
Excellent. And I think, especially in HP and many of the areas, Schneider Electric as well. I see a BSF colleague and the former colleague in the audience. Those with special technical backgrounds, it's not always easy, right? In terms of starting with the source of talent. Ali, for you, also in your business, predominantly historically quite male in many instances. What are you seeing are some of the challenges, and also more importantly, what do you think we can be doing?
Well, I think it's very obvious that it's a challenging situation, and I think what we can do is, we can complain about the situation around us. Doesn't help. What we should do is we start with ourselves, and I think we can be more serious on this topic, taking more risk on this topic, driving it. I think we need to be, if we understand really that's good for business, you said it all, it's not only good for women, it's also good for men, it's good for the whole employees. So we need to be more aggressive on this. And when I say more aggressive, what does it mean? And I would like to share some very simple actions I'm doing daily. So whenever we staff a critical project, we need to bring it on the table concrete and look for gender balance. When we recruit and we promote, and the shortlist must be gender balance. And I think we need to walk the talk. I joined this role 4 years ago. My team was 100% men. So after it was not easy, but after 2.5 years, we have 20%. So it's not satisfactory, but it's a step. And by doing this, we have seen, and it's about being a role model, and it's about having best practices also. When you see that the team is now, is improving, is moving better, it's not because we are showing now some studies which we trust and saying, diverse team are more innovative, more efficient, and so on. I can really tell you, in my team, I see an improvement in the mood. I see an improvement in the engagement. I see an improvement in the way we are taking decisions together. And it's not here about saying women are better than men. It's not the case. It's only about saying balanced in terms of gender or diverse team are better. This is proven. And when people see that, and we start being a role model, it will be, there are nothing is easy in what we are doing. Challenge that. So we start moving the needle and improving and improving, also the quotas and all that stuff. It will come. So at the end, in the summary, it's about being a real ally for this topic for women, being a role model and making things happen by bringing on the top agenda.
Well
Tina,
said, Ali. Yeah.
Sorry, Mons, it's because
Valiente,
you
yeah.
mentioned one thing, Ali, that and I think it's very important. We all know, and that's the theme of this event, is innovation. And we all know in all the companies, every business, everything is changing, and innovation is our theme. So when you think about innovation is what we have to do, in HP we just did a program with the Singularity University on a big innovation initiative. And when they asked us to form teams, we did set up teams, and of course they tell us make sure that it's diverse instead of gender, age, experience, whatever. One thing we realized at the end of the 4 teams that there were certain skills that were fundamental on the teams that wanted to be successful in innovating, and they had to be people that had a lot of empathy, people that had a lot of flexibility, people that could live in the grays, not everything is black or white, people that would love the process, of experimentation, innovation doesn't come, out of the blue. So when we thought about all of these skills, flexibility, empathy, process-oriented, which is the people that you think of? Are women. So one thing, that I think is going to happen is that all the future, all the companies are going to need to innovate. And those skills are doesn't mean that not everyone here can have it, but there are many women that have those skills. So I'm convinced, when you were thinking about future, that the future, aside from the policies or what we do, is gonna come, and that's at least is my hope, that for those companies that want to survive, they need to innovate, they'll need the skills that are very available among many professional women.
Perfect. And I see you. So this is great when the facilitator doesn't have to do any work, right? And the panelists are. So thank you, Guayante, because just to shift, and I'll come back to you, of course, it's beyond always saying, well, what's the business case, right? What are the KPIs? I think all your organizations have already moved beyond that to saying, okay, let's do something concrete about this, right? Let's take action. So Ali talked about deliberate ways to select, staff, recruit women, right? Guayante, you talked about certain programs that bring that out as well. So Montserrat, I turn to you because I know you want to share something on that.
In fact, I was continuing previous discussion because I think it's important. Sometimes we think about the company and where to find women, and there are quite very good scientific papers right now that show up that we are losing those women when they are girls, when they are about 10 and 12 years old, and they feel that they are not, good enough in maths or in technology. And this is where we need to go, because if everything will be digital and we are not really attacking that problem, we will not find enough women for running even the business. So this is quite a crisis, message out there, no? And there are plenty of initiatives that just with 1 hour a year or a month or whatever you decide, you can just join and go on inspiring girls, junior achievements. Those are global organizations. At EGECON, we are collaborating with the Real Sociedad de Matemáticas, and we did also a program here in Spain. So go back and try to support those programs, and you will make a big difference for then, of course, HP and other companies like Schneider finding women in technology.
Perfect. Xavi, do you feel like, do you agree with Montserrat, that organizations and companies as well are going deeper, farther back and really building the culture shift?
I completely agree with Montse, and I will also like to add that we have to be preparing in the companies to receive this talent, this feminine talent, because just to give you maybe a stupid example, but last week I was with one client here in Barcelona, one IT startup, and the person in charge of the HR, she was telling me, Xavi, I don't understand why it's so difficult for us to attract and to retain female STEM professionals. And then we said, okay, let me do a quick audit to your company to see and to hear your guys know what the people in your company are telling us. And they told us that the most exciting thing that the company was doing was to have a ping pong table where all the employees were, releasing the stress, and it was nice. But not a single girl was playing ping pong. And we asked why. The girls don't like ping pong. Yes, Xavi, but it's really anaerobic. And if you play ping pong 10 minutes, you are completely sweat. And I don't want my colleagues to see me completely sweat, right? So men don't bother about that, girls do. So And then we ask, what do you like to have something to get release of your stress? And they say, Xavi, maybe mindfulness could be great, right? So just paying attention to what the employees are telling you, what your company needs, then you can have impact and you can attract and retain, because more and more, not only women, but men, that they are asking the question to the company, how is going to be my life when working with you? And then you have to be clear and to say, if you work with me, it's going to be fun, you will have to work hard, but you will get this. And this is, for me, is important.
I think, Xavi, you shift the discussion even broader, and I don't know what the audience thinks about whether ping pong is the universal inclusion activity for companies, but it's to be tested. But it's more than shifting to appeal to just women and men, but how do you create a company that's inclusive? And it gets trickier, right? There's more diversity than ever in our workforce, and companies, I know for Schneider, this is part of our strategy. HP, I'm sure, is the same as well, to bring in the most diverse workforce that there is. So how do you really build that broader inclusion? And one of the themes that we've also talked about before is, how do you make it inclusive? How do you address biases, for example? Many of you are familiar with that topic. There's trainings and whatnot. But a lot of the data also says the trainings can really backfire, right? They don't always work, just forcing everyone to do hidden bias training. You have to also then bring it into day-to-day working, day-to-day interactions, and really embed it in the mindset of leaders. I'm going to shift back also to Ali and also Guayente, like back to your organizations. Either actual additional practices, best practices that you've seen work, or also around the culture shift. Like, what do you think are really practical solutions that you want to continue to do or introduce?
I'm always thinking what is better, if to, as you say, force, some type of trainings, which by the way in HP it now is forced to do an unconscious bias training for every single employee. And it's true that like you always doubt if it's good or bad. I think it's good to have the training, but as you say, like the best is what you do in your day-to-day, no? And during the last 2 years, I have been extremely lucky to be managing a business that with a male partner, and we were. The business was divided, so we had each of us a P&L, but there were a lot of, we decided to be very effective to have common R&D and operations teams. So we had teams in common and things separate, no? And one thing that I did is I bought a book that is called Relaciones que Funcionan, so relationship that work, that looks like very consumer oriented, but is for professional, and describes the 4 different types of people. Okay, one that are called air, fire, earth, and water. Okay. Anyway, like there are many thousands of different styles of people. One thing that I did, I read the book, and I helped me understand myself. And not only myself, but the impact that my style had in others. And I'm sure all of you have done in many trainings, many things, but I don't know why this book for me was simple and was really capturing the difference of the different style. So the first thing I did is I did buy this book to my partner. And I say, now we're going to try to understand each other. So when we were seeing things, we could relate to the book. Oh, this is so typical, from an air or whatever, just to understand each other's styles. What we did after that is we did one day with the full staff, and we went through all of these styles. What does it mean? We organize each other. So that's an example, like of a policy. I don't know it's policy, but I want a policy and then an action that we took. That for me has been one of the best things, that I have done this year. Fer is the partner, which was completely. It was a guy that would not believe on those things. He's like, he's super practical guy, super powerful, results oriented. Like, do I really need to do? So he trusted that this was going to be good. He did it for me because he thought it was going to be good, and then it was good for all.
And Guayente, I think if I may just add, the idea of understanding hidden or unconscious biases starts very much with that fundamental assumption. It really helps to know oneself first, right? In the context by which you operate, and then your way of interacting. It's not magic science, but it is very, very foundational way to start. I know for us at Schneider, we have all our executive committees, starting with our top leadership, going through some kind of education around hidden bias, and it's premised exactly, how do I see myself, and how do I interact, especially with my colleagues and of course my teams, and how do I build my teams around a more inclusive environment. So, Montserrat,
just another tip that I
add?
would suggest, because sometimes we hear all those initiatives and we say, well, how do I start in my organization? How do I start myself? And the good thing and the good news is that all this is public. Companies do not, they share a lot this type of initiative. I mean, Scandinavian companies who are quite leading on this type of guidelines, they share it. It's out there. So you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You need to adapt it, of course, to your company and your culture and your country. But at the end of the day, the work is done, no? Again, in our association, we need a guideline how to super companies, no, on those type of bias. And you just need to follow and adapt in your company. It's out there.
Excellent. Yeah, it's excellent to know there's so many resources. Ali, what about from your perspective? Any examples of practices or policies that you want to highlight?
Yeah, I think, I couldn't agree more to all what we have said about the culture, the biases, all of that. But this will remain just white hope if we don't underpin this with very clear commitment from the company, with clear policies to support this, to make it possible that we get to this diversity and gender equality, etc. And at Schneider, we are very serious on that. And in the last 3 years, we have done a lot. I want to mention just 3 global initiatives we have done. The first one is flexibility at work. It's very, very important tool to enable people, and more also, it's not only about gender, it's also here about generation balance, because millennials and new generations are looking for that. They want to be the owner of their time. They want to be able to manage their unique life with the work and so on. So this is a very important topic, flexibility at work. The second one is about family leave. This is enabling, and again, you might think it is for women when after the birth of a baby, and maybe in the start it was a kind of a target, but today I'm seeing young men coming and taking benefit of it, which would benefit also, would benefit the women, would benefit the family, etc. Because every one of us knows that we go through some events in life which are very important to us. And when it comes to very critical things in life, we can't multitask. We need to be focused. So giving people, and especially women or men, the time to get a leave and to focus on that and come re-energized at work is the best thing we can do. As I said, I was very surprised positively to see not only women, but I have a young man, early 30s, taking this, going off, managing this in a perfect way. So business is not suffering, and people are coming very energized, very motivated, very dedicated. And we are walking, the talk. We are showing that we are serious about that. And the last topic is, or third topic to highlight is equity pay. I think there is nothing more destroying for motivation is to to be paid less for the same work and the same, results. And so those 3 things, I think we have been very strong on them. We are moving really also very, very good on them. And you mentioned also what our strategy and so on. So we are very happy and proud that we have been now a couple of days ago, we have been awarded or have been ranked 31 of 100 in the Equilibre survey, and college survey, and number 1 in industry. So we are very proud on this. So it's visible internally for our employee, but it's also it's visible for outside, and we want to be also role model for our industry here.
Thanks, Ali. And of course, I'm quite close to those 3 initiatives, so thank you for highlighting them. I think for us, it is about hardwiring, not just forcing a policy, but sometimes a good nudge really starts to then shift mindset and behavior. And the other thing I would mention on the pay equity, what we've started to do in some countries, starting with France and a few others, is of course look at pay equity not just through the angle of women, which are more proportionally impacted by pay equity or pay fairness, but also we, in our analysis, have discovered many cases of men who are not paid equitably compared to the overall comparator median. So that's, again, back to the where we started, where this is about a broader diversity issue. It's not a women issue. It's men and women, and it's all diversities. My last piece, and then we'll shift to some Q&A if the audience is interested. Xavi, from your side, because you deal with so many organizations, what's next? I mean, what we talked about, what Goyente is doing in HP, what Ali shared at Schneider Electric, I think many of the people in the audience have heard of these things, and it's important also to stick the landing and execute with excellence. But what do you think is next for broader inclusion, broader gender equity? What are some of the themes you're hearing?
What's next? The next is that all our pool of talent is going to know exactly what is going to be real happening in our companies. So what's next is to be really transparent,
Yep.
And to be really honest about what we are and what we are not, right? So the talent is going to punish really hard those companies that we were discussing earlier, Monse, that are saying that they are working one way, but they are really acting another way, right? And I also make the same recommendation to all of my clients. Take advantage of your own employees. They can be your greatest ambassadors, because at the end, if you have one, for me it's not so important if it's a male or a female good worker, I'm sure that the friend of a good worker is a good worker also, right? And we all trust more our friends rather than what we see in a promoted LinkedIn advertisement. So for me, it's really important to make people understand in the companies that we don't have much time to waste. Just to give you an example, for the ones that are based here in Spain, Glassdoor just announced that it's coming in the next few weeks or months maximum to Spain. You have a lot of experience in the US, right?
Yes.
So we have to be prepared. Don't lie, be honest, and take advantage of your own talent.
Great, I love that. So transparency, leveraging your employees, and also a healthy dose of urgency, pressure for all of us. Montserrat, would you echo what Xavi is saying?
Yeah, we had that discussion during the coffee early this morning, and I totally agree and empower, and especially for the generations who are coming after us, they think differently. And this is really what will make our companies to lower our turnover, have less burnout, and be people more engaged, when we are so transparent and honest, and be the role model. At the end of the day, this is exactly what you are doing here today. Just before your GPT session, which everyone is waiting, you are putting this topic on the primary agenda, not at the last day because we had a gap on the summit. So that's the type of things we have to do.
Thank you, Montserrat. I think it's a fight for every day to make sure the topic is not standing on its own, but it's part of everyday business, right? And it's what our companies and our customers need to deliver the best outcome. So with that, thank you so much. I don't know about you, but obviously I could spend a lot more time with this great panelist, a lot of insights and wisdom. We have around 5 or 8 minutes for any questions in the room. So I think it's fairly straightforward to get the questions. I don't know if they have to press something, but I think if you open it up, they can take questions now. Is that how we do it? Yeah? So any questions in the room for any of the panel members? Okay, we see a gentleman in the back. Let's see how this works.
Do you hear me?
Thank you. Yes, we do.
Okay. A question, and actually to Goyente, is that correct? I'm Mark Lappe, also Schneider Electric, experienced marketing, and I'm actually preparing our staff here for this global events, and not only this, also trade shows and stuff. So I'm always about this awareness of the employees and the development. So I actually just want to know what the name of the book is that you read.
The book is called Relationships That Work, and the author is Ferran Cortés, Cortes, Ferran. Okay, and that it changed the way I work and how we work. So Ferran Cortés, Cortes, Relationship That Work.
And the name?
The book name is, the title is very ugly and I can't explain the story, but it's called Relationships That Work. in Spanish, relaciones que funcionan.
Perfect.
Thank you.
That was
you.
easy.
That was an easy one. Any other questions from the audience? I see a hand raised here.
Hola.
Hola.
Yo creo que todos los que estamos aquí, ¿sí? Es que no oigo nada. Somos sensibles a este tema, pero hace poco estuve en un congreso en Madrid y una persona puso de manifiesto un tema un poco feo que tiene que ver con la tecnología. No sé si lo conocéis, que es lo que pasa en el mundo de los videojuegos cuando juegan mujeres con nicknames femeninos. Y se hizo un test en el cual ponían a buenos jugadores masculinos jugando con nicknames femeninos y la agresión era espectacular. Lo podéis encontrar en YouTube. Me gustaría saber qué sabéis sobre esto y porque esto es un poco el interior de conmigo mismo, qué es lo que realmente pasa, mientras que luego las políticas son bonitas y todos tenemos buenas intenciones, pero en la soledad del juego sale eso, ¿no? ¿Cómo lo interpretamos?
So, Montserrat, can you
Yeah, of
share in
course.
English the question also?
Oh yeah, she was talking Spanish. You know, I'm Spanish. I was like natural.
Sorry.
Yeah, she was talking about something that you can find in YouTube, where girls who are playing games and they use the name of the girl because I'm my name, and they play against others, no, which are anonymous, and it showed up that they were very aggressive against her, no. So she was asking if you guys have been aware of that YouTube that had been viral, and what actions can we do, no? And in fact, that's also the perfect comment of what I think I said before. It's about really going back and back and back, no, and starting, the Inspiring Girls, type of program. You start when they are 6, 7, 8 years old. I mean, talking about the role models, about the role of the girls also within technology, and this is where we will be able. No, it's about education. It's about role models. No, at least that's my point. I don't know if you guys want to add.
And I think, Montserrat, if I understood the question, I have not seen the video,
Not
but
me.
I think sometimes you have to call it out, right? Men, women, whoever, there's certain degrees of behavior that is below the line where we collectively, as a responsible group of adults, should say, no se puede hacerlo, right? You should not do that. I think that's in the professional, gracious way. There's also ways to shift mindset and say some things are unacceptable.
But I think this is a long run, and there is a lot of bias still, and that even if you are 6 and you're not like I don't know everything, but what I think is humans still have a lot of bias, that we get it from the school, the teacher, our parents. So this is not one thing, that the fact that some of us believe on this equality, and still the world has a lot of bias or things against that we'll need to fight. But honestly, we'll need to ask for a psychologist if in the room is here, so they can tell us why there is still this fight towards women, even just because of the name.
Thank you for the question. Maybe one more question in the room if there's an interest, or one or two quick ones.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for the wonderful talk. My name is Daniela Bocco. I'm the president of the Women in Business Club at ESA Business School. And I have a question for whoever. While recruiting MBA students to become members of the Women in Business Club, a lot of the times male students will come up to me and say, well, why should I join? This seems like it's a close-knitted women community, and I don't really understand why, as a man, I should be part of the Women in Business Club, right? Do you have any concrete examples of a time when you've had to maybe convince someone or give a talk internally in one of the companies that you've worked with about why it's really that important that both men and women take part in these conversations, that we all have essentially a seat at the table? Thank you.
Well, as I said at the beginning, it's very difficult to get the first or the second one, but when you get them, they count like the triple or four. They became the champions of the organization. So we are sending them, when the radio asks us in our association, which are a women executive association, for a member to talk at the radio or be interviewed, sometimes we send one of our men members. And, they have a lot of visibility and they become the super champions. Of course, you need to work on it. You need to have, the goals and what you expect from them. But when they join, they are the champions of the organization. So I really encourage you to do a little bit more effort on trying them to understand understand that we want them to sit at the table. We have been alone at the table for many years. I've been in management companies where I was the only woman up to 11 men's boardroom. And those were for Scandinavian companies, which is even more shame on us, no? But what I mean is that, when you want them to sit at your table, you don't want that to happen again.
Well, I would be really practical. If I were you, I would say, okay, if you work with us, you will meet a lot of women, you will learn a lot from them, and you will be, in theory, if you are studying at ESA, you want to go to kind of managerial positions. So if you know better women, you will know to get the best out of them. So it's good for you. And the second one is it's fun. It's boring to talk every day about football, about your job, and about, so to work with girls is fun. So both things, I think it's pay off.
Thank you so much. I know we're at time. What I'll do is, and there's still quite a bit of time between this session and the plenary session, so you'll have time to take a break, but I will formally end that, and I apologize we didn't get to all the questions. Those of you who still have questions, please stay. The panelists, we're not going to run off right away. But on behalf of the panelists, I want to say very, very big thank you. Great turnout. Thanks for the questions. I hope we just started to address the tip of the iceberg on a really, really important business topic. And thank you, all of you, Guayante, Xavi, Montserrat, Ali. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you all.